The YSL juror says there wasn't a smoking gun. Young Thug might have been acquitted had he not pleaded guilty, jurors say. They show the picture here, and this is published 21 minutes. Oh, with his comrade here, Shadi Abu Saad. So shout out to both of them. If Young Thug hadn't pleaded guilty to gang, drug, and gun charges on Halloween night, the rap superstar might have walked free, two jurors said after the lengthy trial ended this week. The trial, the longest in Georgia history, concluded Tuesday as the two remaining defendants were acquitted of murder, gang, and racketeering charges. The jury found Diamante Kendrick not guilty of all the charges he faced, while Shannon Stillwell was convicted of one count of possessing a gun as a felon and sentenced to probation. So, the single guilty verdict was a blow to Fulton County prosecutors, who spent more than a year arguing Young Slime Life was a violent gang led by the Grammy-winning rapper. YSL, they contended, was responsible for a series of robberies, shootings, and the deaths of 3 rival gang members. In a press conference announcing the indictment in May 2022, Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis said she would seek the maximum penalties for the 28 defendants charged, alleging gangs are responsible for 75 to 80% of all the violent crime in Fulton County. But 2 jurors said Tuesday that the state failed to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, particularly when it came to the evidence against Young Thug. The Atlanta rapper, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, was sentenced to 15 years of probation and banished from his hometown for a decade after pleading guilty. From my perspective, I think he had a great shot of going home, juror number 71 said in a phone interview. A lot of time, we sat there waiting on that smoking gun. At that point, there wasn't a smoking gun. Juror number 71 said he doesn't know if prosecutors had additional evidence to present against Mr. Williams. But at the time Young Thug pleaded guilty, there wasn't enough for a conviction, he said, citing concerns for his safety. The juror, whose first name is Kevin, asked not to be fully identified. Other jurors declined to be interviewed after they were released from jury duty. Jury foreman Jason Collins told Channel 2 Action News, I think Michael Sadin is his name, that was shared around yesterday, that he didn't feel the state had presented enough evidence to convict the rapper either. From what I was looking at, I did not see anything connected to him throughout the course of the case, he said. Jury selection started in January 2023 and lasted 10 months. The trial itself took more than a year and was marred by repeated delays and the replacement of the judge midway through. In the end, the jury was ready to go home. It was extremely long, Collins told, this is Juror 56, told Channel 2. You pretty much put your whole life on the side. Prosecutors argued at trial that YSL members regularly rapped about crimes they had committed. Kevin said, that this is 71, he wasn't swayed by the state's use of lyrics as evidence. So that's like everyone that we've heard from so far. He grew up in Chicago and said plenty of people rap about violence. If that's the case, come lock up my nephews and my cousin's kids. Come lock up my whole neighborhood, he said. This is punchy, right? This is a juror sounding exactly like the vast majority of the public that's watching this trial. If that's the case, we're all screwed. If that's enough, then it would apply to everybody. So, Kevin also said he thought the state's evidence was lacking when it came to the shooting deaths of Donovan Thomas and Shamel Drinks. For one thing, the juror said he felt the witness who placed Stillwell and Kendrick at the scene of Thomas's shooting was unreliable, especially after that witness, Kenneth Copeland, admitted he had lied to investigators to keep himself out of trouble. Everything to me was a torn-up picture they were trying to tape back together. Oh! Oh, man. Oh, boy. You try to make it whole, but you are missing some pieces. And if some pieces are missing, what does that mean? What does that mean? The 26-year-old Thomas was gunned down outside an Atlanta barbershop, and prosecutors argued the car used in the drive-by had been rented by Young Thug. But Kevin said there simply wasn't enough evidence to convict the 2 defendants of murder. Copeland, who probably said Woody, or the witness, placed them there, and then the state didn't back it up with the phone records. Right. What did Doug emphasize? What did Doug emphasize? Whose phone didn't they look at? Look at this. They had everybody else's phone records except for Kendrick and Stillwell. Regarding the fatal shooting of Drinks at a red light in March 2022, Kevin said the grainy surveillance video presented by the prosecution wasn't enough to find Stillwell guilty of murder either. We never saw the shots. We never saw the flashes. Oh, sorry, Viverito. Kevin described serving on the jury as a nice change of pace from his regular job, where he clocks plenty of overtime hours each week. There were enough breaks in proceedings that he could schedule doctor's appointments, but he said he couldn't travel back and forth to Illinois to visit his relatives. Jury service wasn't as easy for others, Kevin acknowledged, saying some jurors essentially put their lives on hold to attend trial each day. Prosecutors and defense attorneys met with the jury after the verdict was delivered Tuesday morning, but Chief Deputy District Attorney Adrian Love wasn't there. So the jurors are noting this. I mean, maybe this was prompted by a question. There is a small chance, I don't know when they did this interview, but maybe they had this question because they saw it on social media being talked about last night after these other interviewers. So maybe this answer was prompted. But at the same time, if it was voluntary, if he was just like, yeah, oh, did you meet with anybody? Yeah, and you know what I thought was weird? Adrian Love, we saw so much of her, but she wasn't back there. If Kevin noticed this, without being prodded, oof. The juror said he thought the lead prosecutor took things personally, and the other jurors said this too, the three that did the interview with Mel. It seemed like Love would try to redeem herself on these redirects. Direct would happen, and it seemed like, all right, they're spelling it out, and then cross would happen, and they'd be like, well, wait a minute. And then when they were talking about Love, they said it seemed like she took things personally. And a lot of her questioning was more about redeeming herself. Look at what Juror 71 is also saying. The juror said he thought the lead prosecutors took things personally. Lead prosecutor, singular, took things personally at times during the trial, especially during closing arguments. So does that mean she saw the... Kevin said he may keep in touch with some of the other jurors, but acknowledged that they're from different walks of life and said it's hard to imagine them getting together much. And this is a bit bittersweet, but very interesting that he's like, we're very different. But guess what we thought about the state's case when you put us all together? This guy's flat out saying, look, I think we're from different walks of life, me and the other jurors, but we still came to the same page. So there you go. This is, and again, big shout out here to Joseph Papp and Shadi Abusad here with AJC. Been great work. A lot of the time, if you look back at some of the earlier pre-trial stuff, you try to research it, a lot of the in-depth coverage that's still out there comes from one of these two. They have a third journalist that they work with. Can't think of his name offhand. But really a lot of archives here with AJC, as well as on Twitter through Joseph Papp. So, wow. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of juror number 71?